community. I am here with Kareem Atouni, our amazing art director, who's going to do a biped sculpture demonstration today. It's going to be awesome. Send us your questions. We're going to get to those at the very, very end of this. In the meantime, just like to remind everybody that we're going to be at PAX, that's Penny Arcade Expo in Seattle. We're going to be doing a panel there and doing like sort of a live game jam with everybody. Should be really fun. We're going to have more information about what that's going to be in the next couple weeks. And we also have an incredibly, incredibly busy fall. We're going to be doing lots and lots of awesome things. So we're going to keep you posted on our social channels. So please follow us there. I'm not really going to take up any more of your time. I'm just going to let Kareem start. If you haven't seen a Kareem stream before, just sit back, relax, enjoy, watch the master at work. Cool. And I don't know, take it away, Kareem.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you. Hello again. And today we're going to make a character in Dreams using our puppet to build on. The best thing about doing that is that rather than sculpting a character from scratch using our sculpture tools, by doing it over our puppet here, we benefit from all the puppet features. So the puppet already comes all connected together like that, and it already walks and moves, and you can instantly use it as a game character. So the nice thing about benefiting, I will show you as I go how I benefit from that in the character design. Today I will really focus only on the character design side and show that in Dream you don't have to know many tools. You don't have to know the full range of it. I always used to use a very small percentage of software like illustration software, and I only know a few brushes in it, but I still was able to do what I need to express myself. So the first thing I want to do is make the setting nice, so I can make my werewolf design. And I initially did a concept art which we streamed as well a little bit earlier to show the process of even making a design, which I will talk about as well as I go. But I have it here printed in front of me to help me do an interesting silhouette. So the first thing I'll do is a bit of floor that this wolf will be standing on. So I get my colors out. I usually like to make it made out of multiple tones of a color. Always makes my sculptures a little bit more readable. So just like a few tones here using our color mixer, and then I just will quickly stamp a sloping cliff to put my character over. And I can, using the sculpture features, even a simple cylinder like that can very quickly turn into a much more interesting shape. So you just add and cut, and I will talk a lot today about adding and cutting, which will take probably the lion's share of my effort here. The adding and cutting in Dream is the foundation of our sculpture tools. You just see how a cylinder has just quickly turned into a shape that isn't really cylindrical anymore. It's a interesting looking piece of landscape, and that's the power of the adding and cutting. So I will quickly, I just did this here, that is enough, and I will slant it like that. So now we don't need this base floor, and I will situate my puppet on top of that. I'll make it like larger. It comes out of the box in a relatively human scale, but our wolf is going to be a bit larger than that. And then the second thing I'm going to do after putting the bit of land, I'll make it bigger here like that. The second thing I'm going to do is I will drop two gadgets from our art gadgets, the sun and sky one, and I'll put it down here, and the other one is the grade gadgets, or the sort of effects gadget. Open up the sun and sky one, and I will choose my sky. I will change the sky into maybe a more moody one like that. I will change my fleck type into a more, yeah, let's take this one for example. It's sort of more moody, and really that's what I wanted from that gadget. The other thing I really want is to move the sun to get it behind my character and create a nice effect, kind of quite werewolfy, where we have that sort of moon, if you like, behind our character. I will change the color of it, make it a little bit more moody like that, and that is what I need from that gadget. The thing I will show you as well is how I can turn off the effects when I'm working if it gets too moody, but I find that it's quite useful to have the atmosphere when you're working. Sort of inspires you a little. In the great gadgets, we have this effect here, or this page, which allows me to control the colors of the shadows and the colors of the midtones here, make them more interesting. I made my shadows a little bit warmer and made my midtones colder, and then I'll make my highlights quite hot here, and that is like enough of the mood part of this gadget. So instantly you have more drama in your scene. The next thing I put in around my character to get like a nice effect is to stick some lights. So we have one light that I'll put in the same sort of angle of the moon, so it will hit and catch our character and sort of pick up some of its silhouette. And I will just change a few of its colors. I will make it similar to the sky, the moon color, a bit cold like that. And I will increase the range, decrease the range. So that's that. And on the other side of the character, see, when you look at the character from this side, if I even pull it a little bit more in that direction, yeah, it picks up the sort of rim of the character. So when we move it around, we'll sort of have these nice highlights. And then on the other side of the character, I will put a complementary light on this from the bottom and make it quite a warm color. So you can see how these sort of effects, see, yeah, it's catching. There we go. So we got like a cold color from the back and a warm one from the front, as if it's like the village or something at the bottom. And then the last thing I will put for my scene to be all prepared is sticking a camera, and I will adjust that camera to get a nice angle. So every time we want to examine our design, we can just quickly look at that camera and see the shot, sort of thing. So there you go, that's our composition, and we're ready to roll. So at any time when I'm working, this is our mooded up sort of setting for our werewolf. If we are working and it becomes a little bit too dark or too moody for us to see, we have this feature which is called the studio lighting. And that basically, if you click it, it switches off everything and makes you see the real colors of your environment. So if you just can't see very well, or you need to just get a real decision, a real color decision, you can always switch it off. So to start my form, I start my character by doing a few proportion modifications to it before I start. And the basic thing when you work on a character is that you find that especially wolves, they have quite long what you call them feet. The animals usually have what we call the inverted feet, but they aren't really inverted. For a long time I actually thought that was the case. All it is that they're very similar to us. They have a thigh and a calf area, but then they have a very elongated first part of their foot, which I always used to think that their knees were here and inverted, but actually their knees are up there. So I'll sort of like, I modified, I stretched that bit, and then I will also stretch the hands a little bit more as well, like that, and then stretch it from here as well. So make it a bit shorter. Cool. And then I will increase the torso size and pull the leg up. There we go. So I got like a basic modification of the basic puppet already prepared for my sculpture. And then I start, I'll pose it a little more, move it around. So I'm sort of like just preparing before I work, and we have some more proportioning tools that we're working on that will help with this phase, but for now that is the first starting point. And then I sort of move my character around on the space. I always like to get a relatively interesting pose so I can work with. Sort of open this leg. We can even add a more, go back. One of the nice things about Dream is that you can always modify the environment as well. If you need to raise the ground a little to have a bit of land that this foot is on, you just go to the land that we built earlier and just add a bump in the bit that we want the raised leg to be on. So you can see like how easy it is to go back and forth between elements. Right, so now to begin, the first things that I will do on this character is just get the general bulk of the character prepared. So picking my colors, I will first give the whole biped a bit of an airbrush of darkness. So we will pick a dark color here, a dark brown. There we go. Just give a paint job quickly. So I'm sort of coloring it. Turn off the mirror. Go back in. And one of the things I was going to show here is that I really am going to spend most of the time of this stream just using quite a limited set of our tools, but showing or trying to take the opportunity to show how you can spend ages just with a very small percentage of Dream and still get so much out of that. One of the things, especially recently, because we like to show off as well how our game making tools and are all connected to each other. So this is one of the strengths of Dream that is very, very, we're very proud of. But this Twitch today is kind of simpler, just trying to show for people who want to just spend the time only making an asset or a piece of art. There is a lot of fun to be had in that side of the project as well. So I'm sort of darkening the character, and it's coming across more red because of my grade that I put. So if I, for example, will go here and turn on the studio light now to see the real colors that I am picking, you see it's very different. So that's a good opportunity for me to make better, correct decisions before I get too affected by the mood. I want it a little grayer actually, so I can see when I'm sculpting like that. Right. So now I want to quickly bulk this up. So the first things I tend to do is try to do the big decisions of the design. So I'm going to go to the sculpt tool, pick my sculpt brush, turn the mirror on, and you see now I turn the mirror on by this gesture, and I start to stick some edits here to just get my shape going. One of the things I like to do is actually use the smear tool for that. So I turn on the smear instead of the single stamp, and I can have the mirror on, by the way, but turn the mirror plane off so I can see better. You can keep the mirror plane when you need it. I'm going now to tell you one of my favorite points of all time. A lot of people think that sculpture is about adding shape, like I am adding now. I'm adding a lot of form. And here is the big surprise. The big surprise is that it's all about the cutting. So in drawing, for example, a lot of people treat the rubber as the eraser. It's even called the eraser. But it's actually, if you see the concept art stream that I did for this character, I used everything in an equal way. You use the negative space to cut the shape and make it more the shape you want. So I always add very, very much, always much more than I need. I add enough bulk so I can cut through it, because cutting is easier, first of all, and allows you to have much almost fluid experience with the tools. I'll show you in a second. I am now just really putting clay or putting my bulk on top of this character that I will then sort of carve through it. There we go. And then on the neck as well, give it some more. There we go. So basically the cutting now, if I go and show you like how that works, as soon as I go with see, now that I have something to cut, it's much easier for me to form a shape. But if the shape was already close to perfection, or it's like I spent ages trying to get the forms right from the start, I won't have much to cut. So it's much nicer, the cutting experience, when you have enough bulk on the form. So that's one of the first tips in sculpture that is really under celebrated, is that you need a lot of form to cut from and play with. Never feel that you have to have the shape really right from the start. It's nice to discover it and find it. Like so, if I sort of find that wrist, sort of. And these are the first stages of sculpture, where you're like quite bold and you're really quick to try to find your form without still being too fussy. I think it's very nice as well that I don't mind these kind of ridges and rims and things at this point. It's more about the general, not the specific at this stage. Another thing that I like to do actually at this point in sculpture is making a color tumble that has a variety of colors in it, because that will help me see. I can then paint it over in the end if it's too much. But at this point you'll see, like, if I get sort of a variety of colors here and just use that as my cutting palette, you'll see like every edit that I do will have a slightly different tone, and that just like, see this one, it has a nice look to it in the first place, but it will also just help you see. One of the things in the design I was playing with that character was to try to make it interesting. In character design, you want to try to always get a good silhouette. So the bit I found as my hook was the relationship between the shoulder and the back. So I wanted that to be the interesting hook of that character, and then it goes into a more slender anatomical shape, and we will fix it as we go. But the biggest part is this top section, and then I try to get the relationship between the body and the torso. See, I'm jumping between the arm and the torso, and I will show you now in a second one of the first examples of why it's better to model on the biped and not, or on our puppet, if you like. I just want to also prepare the face, and I will show you a technique in a second of making the jaw. So I'm going to use the face here to make the top part of the head, and then I'll make a new model and joint it to the head so it can open and close if I wanted to later on. Again, I'm just doing really big bulks of volume now before I carve into it. It's really nice as well. I sometimes like to start a shape with the soft blend, sometimes with the smear, depending on the size of it. So now if I exit the sculpture, I can always move this and refine it further. So if I move this arm up here and move this arm down there, if this character is going to animate, it will move. So the more I move it when I'm sculpting, the more I kind of make sure that I am refining the design to look robust and cool in all the different postures it will take. That always makes it a more successful character to be animated as well. So while in a real sculpt situation, you will never really have that luxury where you can be modeling a posed character and then find yourself moving its arms up and down to make it to refine it further. I think that is one of my favorite things of sculpting over a creation that you can move. So like that you can always make sure that it will work in the different angles. So this make the head smaller from this side, flatten the top, and I'm turning on mirror when I'm working on the head and the torso and these parts, while I turn it off when I work on the arms and feet. And with the eyes, the big thing with the eyes is just to try early on to say it's gonna be roughly around here. That's the important decision to make early, just where roughly it's gonna be. And we continue. So Okay. And then keep going. One of the things I always emphasize, see, if I raise the neck super high, see this part of the neck needs resolution. So I go back in the neck and go to the sculpting tools again and fill it again with more bulk. In Dream, we never had the notion of skinning like you have in a lot of 3D artwork, where you model one model and then you go in and you almost paint over it a skinning map, or which bits will bend and which bits won't bend with animation. In Dream, our equivalent to that is what I'm doing here, where you just keep posing and reposing a character to make sure that when you're sculpting it, it's going to work in the different angles. This is, for example, if that wolf will howl, so it will take that pose, and then so you'll need to see the neck from that direction. So by making that sculpture look good in that angle, then it will work if it does take that pose. And then I move it to a more lower angle here. Then move the arms down. And then the very important section as well is so I turn the mirror back on. I like to use as well the cube, because the cube is like the most unanatomical shape. So it kind of encourages you to just not be too precious to start with. You just try to get like the general shapes of the anatomy without really trying to soften it all. It's just important to get the main bulk. And then like we said earlier, we will cut away on this as we go. There we go. One of the values as well, or the things I like to do in concept art, is I look at all our favorite designs, and you look at like other designs of creatures and monsters and things like that. But it's very important to take the opportunity, if you ever do a design, to look at the source. I have pictures around me here of just wolves, lots of wolves. It's very important to go back to the source, see the actual animals and their anatomy and the noses and to take inspiration from that. If you only have pictures of your favorite manga character or your favorite cartoonist, or you end up really building on their solutions, which are very cool to learn from, but it's nice to almost resolve the problem every time, so you can get an original take on it. But you can always look at the nice designs for inspiration. But I like my mood boards are usually got sort of real references from real animals, and then I try to have a stab on doing a concept myself. That is the one we streamed, just trying to find interesting shapes to anchor the design on. It's good to have like a design that works and has a readability to it without even putting all the details. You can see how, because I added a lot of bulk in the beginning, it's allowing me to do this cutting now. And like I said earlier, the cutting is where it's at really in terms of good forms. You can really get very large sweeping decisions. So you can see sometimes I go into this other tool which allows me to soft blend. The soft blend is useful in some moments. Like see, like in the soft blend, I can actually use it to push things around like that, and that is another technique. It's very similar to a hand pushing clay around, and then again I try to relate the joints together. Now it's sort of, in the beginning it was quick, and then now we're starting to get a notch more refined and intentional. The soft blend is a good tool to use in this point. You go between the soft marks and then a hard cut like that. So you get very powerful sculptural techniques going on. You get like very nice soft to hard, which if you look at Rodin, for example, or you look at people like Degas, the relationship between the softness and the hard is one of the alchemies of their masterness. What a word. The wrists are very renowned to be very hard because they relate to the hand. You can't really do a wrist without knowing what the hand is doing. But there we go, sort of starting to take shape. And as you can see, like always exit, repose, re-examine, see if it's still working. So I just go real quick. One of the things I always like to do as well is never spend too long in one area. Like if I get too fussy about this shoulder without even starting on the hand, that's dangerous, because it's kind of going to make it more and more unattainable. So I just like the way I'll do the hands, just like quickly start. I'll treat this starting point that was there as the wrist, and then just add quick fingers to it like that. If I wanted this character to fully articulate, then I would have had to make all these elements separately and then jointed them together, which is what we do to some of our game characters. But I'm not doing that here. I'm just doing like one sort of hand. See, like hands are like supposed to be like super hard, but like we just got a hand now. It's a decent starting point where we can then carve and work with. I can always as well look at my whole thing and just make sure that, you know, the proportions are good. So I'm just gonna sort of make these a little smaller like that, right? And then I need to work. It's very the hip section is essential to get to a point where you can hang the legs from it right. The best way to think about it is like almost like an Iron Man style pants or something, like, because you just cannot get the feet without it being, or the legs without a good pelvic structure. The important part, very important part, is these side bits on the top. They have obviously a medical name. I never know these things, but I know it's relatively around here, and basically it's important to resolve both the back and the legs. So now I've got enough. Just give a little bit more. So now I can do this section, which actually always hangs on like that. And wait till the big moment at some point in any anatomical design is the rib cage as well. But we've got enough to work with. But you know, a rib cage really makes it. So rib cage, the best thing is like cylinder. You get a cylinder like that, and basically I start. Yeah, it's going to be around here, and then I'll go smearing again. So kind of go like this. You can see how kind of rib cagey, and then on the back as well. So you see, like in Dream, the good thing of what I was saying earlier, if I am someone who doesn't really do technology very well like me, when I was an architect or in architecture, I wasn't really fluent in all the technology of architecture and all the sort of details and new materials and building civil engineering stuff. When I was working in print, I was not very aware of all the print technology. I just knew the absolute minimum all the time. But the bit that I love is the stuff I'm talking about here, like rib cages and stuff. And basically, you can do that in Dream. You can only be obsessive about a very simpler part of the equation and still be able to go like nuts deep with it if you want, and that will be your thing. And then you collaborate with like amazing other dreamers to sort of make it sound great or make it. It's not saying that it isn't fun to delve into all these things. You can as well, and it's all very cool. But I think I just wanted to demonstrate today that idea of being just adding and cutting. Today we are only going to add, I did a little bit of the sort of environment and the moodiness in the beginning, just to sort of get going and to get a nice scene. So when we finish the stream, it will have a nice moment where we can look at the design in situ of a more moody environment. After you put the rib cage, now you can sit the chest on top of that, and on top of that as well are these two lat muscles that come on top of them. So they really need the rib cage, and you can then go on top of this and sort of do the traps. I like this kind of hunchback posture, and I want to relate it more to the neck, like there. So you can see I'm traveling really quickly between the different elements of the model or of the puppet via shortcuts. Like we have a lot of shortcuts that allow you to do operations in Dream. So I'm not even feeling the need to talk about them because it's just sort of quite ergonomic how to do that. And now let me work on that head a little. I wanted to add a bottom part of the jaw. It's always quite one of the hardest things in any design or any drawing is the head. And I was talking earlier about postponing, and I postponed it. Like, so even didn't practice what I preach, but I will confront it now. So there we go. Always the most part of any design that you don't want to do is the one that you should do, basically. And when you do it, it kind of unlocks your courage again. Our art teacher, we have a brilliant art teacher who comes in Media Molecule, and he helps us with like live drawing and painting, and he has some amazing teachings. Like one of his best ones I like is, he always says like when you think you need a brush to do a detail in the painting, always pick the bigger one. Like, always pick the next size up from the one you think is right, because that will make you more courageous and make better moves. So start seeing it appear, and now we need two things. We need just quick ear. Let's find it. Again, like it's doesn't matter how you start it. Like you could always go, the ear is not really that shape. But as we said, you can always cut. These are sometimes the moments where you can see how the dream tools, you know, when we were doing the floor earlier, and just like a cylinder turning it into a interesting floor, that's the same with like these ears. They started by just a sort of simple primitive, but then the layering of these edits on top of one another turn it into something else. It's important very much as well in any 3D design is to keep moving the camera all the time. It is not a painting. The thing that is sometimes accessibility concepts try to change a medium into another, but the thing about moving around the character is the thing you want to do. So if it is a hard concept, then we need to not make it hard. We need to make moving around the character easier, but not hide that fact. Because you can see, like, the more I turn, the more the character will work in all these angles, the more the character will work in all these angles, you know, basically. So this is the only rule in 3D design that you will find. And actually it's not like, one of the things I love about the Dream camera controls is that they really try to help you. So for the DS we have a whole heap of ideas that we've added to the game to make moving the camera around very pleasant, and the same with the move. Each one of them has its places and has its value to use. So see, like, as soon as I turned, I see that this is bulging out, you know, so it's important that I turn. So. And again, the rule that we said earlier about always repose it. I sometimes forget to turn the mirror on when I'm working on one of the areas that need symmetry, but I like that because it kind of gives it asymmetry unintentionally, but you know, you go with it. The cheekbone, this is, there we go. Cool. Right, starting to see something appear, and then I'll go out of the sculpt, move the head up. Kind of go, yeah, just a bit. Zoom out a bit. I'll scale that up a little. Yeah. And then so I want a better relation between the head and the neck. So that's the sort of it's a nice thing as well about, like, always take a step back from the character all the time. Just see it as a whole, like a thumbnail. Remember the big picture. It's like, do we like this sort of silhouette? Is it working? Is it not working? Like at the moment, you know what? I want to just small little stretch here. See, so we have these tools that you know, allow you after the fact to kind of go like, a little bit longer. Yes, that's it. So that is one of our proportioning tools that we're very happy with. Then the legs. So now I'm going. So when I go into one of the limbs, it will. I switch the mirror off, and we'll do a bunch of edits. To do a good leg, you need the first thing to be this sort of inner muscle here, and then there is one that comes, kind of a thin one, that comes all the way from the pelvic line. I'll turn that, and then I'll put a there we go. It's very see, what I like as well about what we're doing together today is showing something happen from scratch. A lot of concepts in CG empowerment are about making something from scratch is really hard, and it isn't really a lie, but I think that I like to challenge that concept by showing that you can get a whole design going in 1 hour, that the tool, it's just a bunch of cylinders and shapes and cubes that are layering on top of one another. It's almost the important part is just knowing to do that, and that's a bit of practice, but also not having a problem with this kind of like keep on fixing it. Like when we first started, see, this posing thing is so important. This keeps making me see things. The posture is a very big part of a character as well, so I never liked designing characters in a T-shape pose. It's very hard to understand who that character is and make some decisions that relate to the vibe of the character. So, I straight away realized that this top part of the leg is small, so I sort of sort it out. But in T-shape situations, you just really don't know. So it makes you keep on doing detail, and then the silhouette is not great, sort of thing. While some of our favorite characters in the history of character design have like killer silhouettes. Like, I have to deal with these cutesy feet because they aren't acceptable. So we deal. It just needs to stretch. How am I gonna do this? Yeah. I quite like the smearing again here, like we did the fingers, just quick sort of bulking it out, no fuss, just quick shapes, sort of knuckles. We'll cut through it and make it important, but it work just like really needs to feel right. There's an important thing with feet as well and stuff, is that they have these knuckles, and then from the knuckle you kind of do these bones that are connecting the knuckle, and they kind of give it a again, big picture. thing to go back to our shot. Yeah. Okay. That's too big. So it's very important to not be afraid of your design. You know, this is not cool, so it goes. And we have some features where I can hide everything else, just if I want to see it from the bottom for some reason, like I did now, and then go back. It's very important to get these kind of things. Yeah, it's better. Right. As soon as I put the toes and the thing, I got the general gist of the shape wrong. So I knowing basically that, and knowing to not keep it, you know, is a very good thing in design. Is just the do it again is fine and really fun, you know. It's not like you have to inherit things just because you've done them, you know. So there we are in the the knee in is the way I like to do the knees in these kind of designs is I do a bit of it in one half and a bit in the other, because like that again when I'm posing it around it will kind of look convincing. And then there is the last muscle on the outside that goes after all these here. So now there we go on this side, and then we need to do a little bit of cutting. It's this angle. Yeah, we go. Okay, I want to do the jaw now, so I want to get this character. If I I'll make a new sculpt really quickly to make the jaw, and I'll turn my mirror on. See quickly. I turned one of those things. Just make a quick thing like that. I'm doing this jaw in isolation first because I want to joint it to the character, but I want to relate it better, so I'm just working out my best way of doing that is cylinder, the faithful cylinder. Again, really quickly, I don't care, just put always more than we need rather than less, then we can cut. You know. There we go. Then see the magic of the cuts now is gonna. I used to really try to get the shapes closer to the truth of the design really first off, but like how easy is it to just do these 3 cuts, you know, and then to make it more successful without really try. But it's super harder, much harder to try to get like these forms. That's almost like, you know, traditional modeling. You just try to get the form right straight off, while I just, like, you know, put anything and then carve away with these huge shapes always works for me. a bit flat, and then we'll give it depth in a second. Just trying to get the bottom part of it. And now I'll change to a bit of soft blending. Got a bit of a jaw, and then we cut the cutting technique again. Again. Okay. And now I can take this, put it in here, try to position it relatively now that I put that relatively in sort of in right relationship with the top bit, I will go and get a joint. You know, that's as technical as I get. Let's see if I can do it even. Okay, so I will connect this to that, and that's it. And you take this bit and turn it in the angle you want. Hopefully that will work. Let's see. Oh no. Go here. Now the head, and if I go to this one. Oh, no. So now it's part of the head, that's good, but I want to move the jaw. Oh, no. Oh. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So that works. Cool. So now I'm gonna hide that jaw. That's all I needed from the jaw, just to make an articulated element in my design. So now I can sort of carry on. But now that I have the bottom bit of the jaw, actually I can get that head going, because you really need the mouse. So go in, move the head, go in, move the mouse. Yeah, open that. Cool. So now I want to cut a bit of this neck that is coming through. See, these are all the techniques of making all these things work together, because you can't have, like, you know, the design. And the more you want your character, like I am still focusing this stream on making a character that just makes a nice pose shot. But I still wanted to show a little bit of some of these other techniques that are needed for making a character in general work for a game. So now we can start working the face while we have a top part and a bottom part. So let's find that sort of nose bit, and then we'll do those need to put those teeth as well, so it can start getting more sort of serious. And So even like, so the way I articulated that jaw and connected it to the head is how you would do fingers, for example, that if you would want them to articulate, then you just build another sculpt, join it to the other one. And because the puppet system is so clever, all the walking and procedural stuff all works. And if you add to your design, it just works. And if you want to add like a turret or a shoulder weapon or something like that, you can just add to it and make it work. So carving the nose out, check it out from a distance, and add some teeth. Okay, I need to be speedy because the time is running. But like I like the fact that we are close-ish. I could keep going for another day, but it's okay. The gist is coming through. And we need the teeth. Teeth are important. Get like some. Maybe get some sharper shape, like something like one of those. Or actually, I like the cone. The cone makes a good starting point. In fact, I'll make it as a different sculpt so I can make it out of another material. So I just do that. And I just carve through it. So just like, you start with a basic cone, which looks like, super cartoony, and then you just do a few cuts in it, and it looks like a cool tooth, You just don't have to get the shape right again from the start. Like, let's say that's our... No, I need to sort it out from here as well. Give it some... And we need to add some gums as well. But let's see. Need to resolve it. Even though we're not gonna see that bit, it's gonna tuck inside. But if I'm going to reuse that tooth to make all the other tooths, I might as well make it, useful. Okay, tooth. And then let's just put some of them in the character. Take a few, flip it. Smaller ones. Add some. Oops. I had a picture in front of me of like the wolf, so they apparently they're sort of, they get quite small really quick. So you get like a bunch of sharp ones and then chunky sort of one like that. So just a bit of wolfness. Okay, that will do. More. sort of thing, and then the bottom of the jaw. The chunky ones. Something like that. Amazingly, even though we're going to see it quite far, it still makes a difference to have this kind of level of detail, at least for the shot that we were serving from the start. Alright. And of course, if I am to, there we go, that, let's say that was our teeth. If we have more time, you end up like, you know, spending more time obviously on tooth by tooth and stuff, but like this will do. And then how does it look if I turn on my mood lights again to check my design, and then we go in the camera and start seeing it, it's starting to shape up. The thing I will do now, which gives it the character we want, like in the concept, is get a big sort of mane coming out here. So I'll just add that, and to do that I can use my other tools where I will use the strokes. In the strokes we've got a whole bunch of strokes here, and I will pick one of them, like which one shall I pick? Pick this one. Okay, and then I want to do that. So do some. I'm trying to find the most appropriate. Yeah, that one is better. So I can just do a tuft of hair like that, which I will use to do, I'll copy it a few times and I'll make it a bit more physical. If I, so now it's rigid, but if I turn this into a more of a physical bit of hair, it will now be more physical like that. So if I go in the head and leave it there, it should move with that. Oh, not in that layer. Yeah, so now it's part of the head, but of course I didn't connect the teeth to the jaw, which I can do later, but I don't need to move it anyway. But to use that now to quickly, if that character would animate, the hair would flop around with it and give us a more convincing result, because I'm not really worrying too much about the behavior. It doesn't matter, but like you can imagine how that would look as well. We need, the last thing I want to put is like some glowing eyes. Cool. We are close. Now that we're coming close to the end, I can change the colors now of this model to be more werewolfy. So I'm going to pick some dark tones now, and then we'll put the glowing eyes in the end, and we're in business. So pick some dark colors now, because modeling in dark colors is it's pretty hard because you don't really see very well. So I'd sort of save it till the end, and then let's go in, start painting over my painting. Actually, the grade is too strong. Wait. I will go here. See why it's appearing super red is that the grade is a bit too much. So I'm gonna take that down a notch. And now airbrush it. There we go, a bit better. One of the things as well in our tool set that we have that really helps make it more of a werewolf, like even though I sculpted the whole thing in a sort of relatively hard modeling style, I can now quickly go into the sculpt tools, and the same exact way that I'm painting it now with just color, I can paint with the painterliness. So I will go here to this tool here called the looseness tool, and basically that allows me to make the model a little bit more painterly and fluffy. I can choose the appropriate style, and you can see if I take that and make it change the style to this one, or this one actually. And you can see it better if I variate the internal color. You can see the silhouette actually kind of changing. Yeah, and I will show you a technique here that will make, I'll do it to the wrist, and then there we go. Change it to this style as well. Kind of gives it the furriness that we are looking for. And if we want to see it better, we can darken. I have one of our tools, it's called the tinting tool. I'm not gonna go into this time, but I'll just quickly tint the inside layer a little bit darker than the outside, so you can see the strokes a bit more. Even more. Maybe it's too dark on the outside. I'll go the other way around. Yeah, you can see like that, but that's like lava wolf. Don't want that. Let's go into the. But you can, at least you see the effect I'm going for in terms of the painted looseness, but I will darken it again because it doesn't look great. Right, so now we got our shape relatively down, and the last thing we need is some eyes. So let's just get any sculpt to make the eyes again in the same manner that we did before. I will quickly switch the, I'll do it in the mood actually, in the right. Pick a bright color. What color shall we do the eyes? Yellow? Okay, let's go. And make them glow as well, so they're Again, same philosophy. We just put any bulk and then we cut it. So the cutting is so much cooler than the adding. It is the secret of sculpting. And in drawing, rubbing is so much the way of finding shape, and painting the background and those kind of negative shapes. So if you want to take away one thing from this whole stream, is that. And then I can't help it, I go back into the head, because after you put the eye, you need to cover it with the, take this color, and it's almost there. So I just cover it with the bottom lid, gives it its attitude, and the top lid, something like that. Okay, and then we glow the eye and we finish. Where is the eye? Here. One of the things I did, it helps me, yeah, here we go. We can glow it with the glow tool, like that. And we got our wolf. If we go into the angle, and that's as much as I could do in the time we had.
Amazing.
But we could, you know, the rest is basically more of the same. If I just keep changing and posing and refining the volume and re-refining it and stuff, that is basically what I will keep on doing if I had more time.
So because you were sculpting on a biped, hi everyone, when you move it around, like if you were to take it and walk around with it, that will go...
That will work, but because I didn't attach the teeth, the teeth will be left behind. So if we want to, if I want to demo that, I will just quickly...
Yeah, I would just group it, because we had people who wanted to see a sassy werewolf walk, which then made me really want to see a sassy werewolf walk.
Let's see. So just quickly pick all these things and group them together, and that should do the trick. There we go.
That's good, because it answered another question about grouping objects within sculpts, so thanks.
Cool.
Just saving me time.
Yeah. No, this is it. Because we did those teeth as separate bits, so I just need to group them together like that, group them with this one, and there we go. No, group. So now, so these are with us. Take this one, this one, this one, and group. Okay, almost all. Yeah, we got that side. Need those ones. Group. And now I think the bottom jaw, is all grouped. It looks cool with the closed mouth. Yeah. And then the top one as well, we need to group those to the top one. There we go, and then pick the top head. Yes, and group that. Fingers crossed.
All right.
Okay, and now this should work. Let's see. We broke it. I think.
Oh God.
No, but he wants to walk. He wants to walk, but he's. I know actually what's going on. If I go to the, I think I messed with its posture. If I go to the, and we need to group the eyes.
I just asked you for like the
the hardest thing. No, because I really But you know what we can do actually is that in another stream we transform this character into a more successful animated character, because I kind of like was more focusing on the character design part. So it is on the biped, so we benefited from the biped posing and these things, but to get its walk designed right and to address its pose, I think we will need to equalize its pose again and sort of fix its asymmetry. I think it's
that's the nice part about the Dreamiverse is that we can save it and then have the animators come in.
They can come and make
a sassy werewolf.
In fact, I was talking with Dave, one of our amazing animators, and he was like, "Yeah, we can. What I can do is like carry on working on the model a little bit more, make it look good, and then give it to Dave, and he can have a stream where he shows you how to transform that into a more animatable."
Oh, that'd be really cool. That okay,
could be cool.
That is something that we could do.
Yeah.
And then so like default animations can work with stretched limbs and stuff like that once you do it. I think actually we made a goose for at GDC when we were sort of making. We were sitting next to the Untitled Goose Game, and then John and Ed made a very quick goose, and that had also some, like odd limbs, and they made it walk sassily. So it can be done. I've seen it done.
I'm gonna try while you talk. I'm gonna see if I. Yeah.
So one of the questions that was asked was how much the complexity of the sculpt affects the thermometer. So like how how heavy is something like this on the thermometer in the game?
Very, the game is actually designed to cope with that style of modeling. So all our characters in our game are very, very complex sculptures that so the beauty of Dream is that actually one shape like that is costing quite a similar cost to when you actually carve into it and do all these shape refinements. It still costs the system similar because it's almost more similar to resolution in an image. So if the shape already has the pixels, but the 3D pixels, so you can carve into it a lot and it still costs a similar cost. Yes, if you do hundreds of thousands of edits, that adds a little bit, because what we try to do is we record all your operations so you can go back into them and be able to manipulate and move them around. So that adds a little bit to the cost. But actually, we have models that people have carved into a lot and they still cost very similar to the sphere that they were made from.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
'Cause somebody was asking if scale affects the thermometer, and also like how big and small you can, scale characters up and down.
No, you can scale as so. If I sort of pick that character here and we just group it with its eye, there we go. You can have a copy and then have the big sort of mega werewolf. You can really, that doesn't affect at all the and you can have the sort of baby one, sort of mini one. But yeah, scale, you can actually, like Shadow of the Colossus style, make a character that becomes the level that you walk on. And
that was also literally a question that was asked earlier.
Yeah.
And then someone asked if you can copy levels, and like I can answer that. Yes, because you can remix levels, which means that you'd have a copy of a level that somebody else did, and then you could make changes in it. Oh wow, multi-werewolf. We need like a 3 werewolf moon, probably.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah.
Just go into some internet meme territory. Great.
They arrive at night.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Cool.
Awesome. We're sort of out of time. I know we can all watch Kareem go forever, and Kareem would probably grow forever if we let him. That said, we have another stream coming up in just a few short weeks. That is September 1st. So you should tune in for that. It's going to be at PAX. We're going to be taking suggestions from everyone in the community and us also at the show. So just stay tuned to our social channels. We're going to tell you how you can like suggest cool things to make in it. John and Ed are going to be doing that, and it is going to be sci-fi themed, which is going to be awesome and like realistic sci-fi. So I'm super excited about it.
Cool.
We are going to be adding more streams. You might have noticed that this is our second stream this month. So we're going to be doing lots more cool stuff, showing you more awesome things that people in the studio are working on. I'm really happy about that, answering lots of your questions. So yeah, just stay tuned to our social channels. We'll tell you when all of that stuff is coming up. And thank you so much for being the awesome community that you are. We really, really appreciate it. And, you know, we'll have lots more news and lots more cool stuff coming up this fall. If you're going to be at PAX, come say hi. We're going to have the game playable on the show floor, levels that we've made. And we can't wait to see you there. We're also going to be at other shows, so if you're like excited about EGX, maybe TGS, there's lots of opportunities to come say hi and see Dreams. So thank you everyone for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kareem.
Thank
you were
you.
awesome.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye.